Hey, Ray, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
How you doing, John? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on board. I'm looking forward to this conversation. So, just to give the audience a little bit of background, why don't you give some context here of where you're coming from and what you're up to these days, and then let's dive right into some of the specifics.
Sure. CEO of Operatix. I founded the company in 2012, so we've been going for 11 years. Self-funded, so blood, sweat, and tears. Never took any investment. Right now, we are around 300 people in the organization. Probably will be around 400, 420 by the end of this year. And what's on top of our mind at the moment is the global conquest of the world. And we are opening centers in APAC in particular. So Singapore is a big focus of us this year, simply because we are getting in front of larger clients, and larger clients want global approach. They want one throat to choke. So having teams that can cover every single region, lots of languages, work across the sun is very important for us. So that's a big focus for us this year.
Love it. And before we get into some of the specifics here, I'm just curious, what drove you to start your business? What was that itch? Like, did you always have that entrepreneurial itch, or was it something you woke up one day and was like, wait a minute, that seems cool? I'm always curious on entrepreneurs and why they start their businesses.
Yeah, I think it starts from a long time ago, actually, John. So it could be a long-winded answer. We may take the 45 minutes we've got just to discuss that. I got expelled from school twice before the age of 10. I think the second time I was around 6 or 7 years old, and I joined a private school, which was like a Catholic school in France. The private is Catholic. And the teacher that I met was really good because she basically managed me through empowering me. And one of the first things she said, she had all the kids in the classroom on day one. I did not know any of the kids. Of course, the other one have been together for a few years already, so they know each other, very happy to see each other after the summer holiday. And she goes around and say, this is John. John is great. He's got some great podcasts going on, a fantastic sales training company. Lots of great stuff about John. Here is Bill. Bill is that. Here is Samantha. She always wear a great dress and everything. And when she came to me, she said, hey, this is Aurélien. You don't know that guy. He's new. But something you need to know about it is that he is very, very smart. And he gets things very quickly. And for that reason, I want him to move his desk next to my desk. And this year, if everybody agree with that, he will be my teacher assistant. And she actually moved my desk next to her desk, which technically was probably to keep an eye on me. But one of the reasons why I got, I think, evicted from school is I was maybe getting things a little bit quicker than other kids. And then I just turned into a clown after that because I wanted to entertain people. So I think she saw through, and she gave me that empowerment to change my mindset and rewire my brain in using my energy to do something a little bit more productive than being a clown. And then after that, you need to make money. My parents don't come from much. My dad is a warehouse worker. My mom used to clean houses in my street, make a little bit of cash. So I was selling flowers in front of my local bakery, which sounds so cliche for a French guy. But yeah, I was selling flowers there. That's how I started to make money. And then I left France because it's very difficult to start a business in France. Came in the UK, had the opportunity to meet the person who helped me to co-found Operatix. So we had a company called Optima Consulting Partners, which did something similar to what we do now, obviously a little bit less developed. We got acquired in 2010 by a NASDAQ-listed company called Rainmaker System. They were based out of Campbell in the Bay Area. Did the earn-out very successfully. And 2 years later, I think the direction that Rainmaker was taking was not really aligned with the culture I had and what I wanted to do. I saw a gap in the market. I had basically clients, friends calling me saying, why are you not doing that? And yeah, I saw just a gap in the market, decided to exploit it, and that was the birth of Operatix.
I love it, man. I always love the entrepreneurial journey because it's I mean, there's usually something in the childhood that kind of either is nature because of where you grew up and how you grew up in your parents, or nurture where somebody pushed you in that direction. So it sounds like there was a little bit of both, and you had a really good teacher that recognized uh, the good and not the bad, right?
Yeah. You need some of those. I try to do that now. I think managing through empowerment is a technique that I use a lot, particularly when you've got people who are difficult, and good sales guys can be fucking difficult. So I think giving them responsibility, and when they come
Yeah,
with problem, actually telling them, you know what, you are responsible for the task force now.
yeah,
You go, I'm going to give you some resources and we sort it together, but you lead it because you came with a challenge. It's a great way to manage people. And it's a great way to create relationship. It's a great way to avoid them to come all the time and complaining as well, because it
yeah,
gives
that's
them more
true.
work.
You need to put some guardrails in that. So let's talk. I mean, first of all, congratulate. I mean, you said you're growing. You have 300 now, and maybe 420 by the end of the year. And congrats, by the way, on the FT. What is it? FT 1000, fastest
Yeah,
growing in the UK.
it's good.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Thank you,
That
John.
Right. Yeah.
especially in this environment here. So, of the 300, how many are actually SDRs?
Well,
Gotcha.
pretty much 100% have been SDR, because we've got a big culture of promoting from within. So apart from our people team, which are recruiters, and actually we have some recruiters who used to be SDR, but head of people, head of HR, finance people in the organization, the rest of the team, sales, marketing, leadership, everybody has started from the bottom, a little bit like a Papa John's or a McDonald's franchise. But right now, I would say it's a good question. So I'll make an assessment that we've got around 40 what I would call overhead in the organization. So I'd say around 250 people, 250 SDRs.
Wow.
And with the growth, it sounds like you'll grow about what, 25% next year, a little bit more, maybe 30%.
35 actually. We're close
35.
enough.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we revenue is not really following the bodies, but yeah, in terms of revenue, it should be roughly 35.
Okay, so perfect. And I mean, I think one of the things I'm always curious about as it relates to SDR hiring is, so many people try to skip so many steps. A lot of people that I talk to and clients that I work with, their SDRs are always looking like, how do I get to the next role? How quickly can I get there? And so we've gotten, especially here in the States, we've gotten to a manufactured, 30-day ramp and, get on the phones as fast as possible. I'm curious from your perspective, what do you do to ramp these SDRs, and how do you look at ramping them so that you can have that build from within? Because the model of SDR, right, the predictable revenue model, is meant to be you hire SDRs at a relatively young age, you build them, and then they become, like you said, the future leaders of your organization from a sales standpoint. But at least here in the States, it's almost like everybody is so impatient and they're trying to skip these steps, and therefore they don't get the training, they don't get the ramp. And I'm curious how you deal with this at such a large scale of SDRs to make sure that you ramp them the right way and they stay.
Yeah. It's a good question, John. So I would not say there is one size fits all, but I'll try to give you a generality that I think is good enough for a large volume of the population. I think it starts from the recruitment process. We recruit people for who they are versus what they've done. I think when you look at organizations that are probably like a B2B software vendors that tend to be really, aggressive in terms of volume of SDR they recruit, what they tend to do is to recruit people who have already been SDR, BDRs for a period of time, maybe 12 months. It may be a requirement that you've got at least 18 months, 2 years experience of being an SDR, BDR. And when you recruit those type of people, straight away, they will want to get off the phone of the sequences and move on to do something else. Or maybe not straight away, but they are more likely to have heard the story of the successful guys moving into sales or field sales and et cetera, et cetera. So we tend to recruit people, or we tend, what I would say as an analogy is we try to find the diamonds in the rough, okay? And find individual that may not have been SDR, BDR, but have all the core competencies and skills that we believe are essential for BDR SDR. Okay. And you probably know who they are. I mean, I've listened to some of your podcasts, John, but curiosity, right? This is something that comes from your parents, from your education. You can't teach someone to become curious. You either are or not. I don't think you can teach that. Coachability, again, maybe something that you can develop over time, but really come from your education. Have they been part of a sport team or not? Or even doing sports in general? You can check coachability over the process. Okay, the recruitment process. And then there is some other, obviously we want them to be smart, we want them to be accountable. So there is a few other bits and pieces. But the most important one is resilience as well. You want people who are resilient. And to test resilience, you've got to make the recruitment process relatively painful. And I think that's the first problem. Yeah. Because it seems that sometimes people are so desperate to recruit BDR SDR that they are literally throwing money at them. And I think that's bad, because you get people who come and join you for the wrong reason. What we do, have you watched Braveheart?
Of course. Yeah.
With these guys who paint their face, and actually you've got one from the top of one side and the other on top of the other side, and they literally run at each other with just an axe. That's our ancestors doing that sort of shit, man. Why would they do that? I mean, I am not going there right now, but the reason why they did it is because of religion, is because of the story they were told, is because they had a what's in it for you. And I think the what's in it for you is very, very, very important to explain to people. So we spend a lot of time in the interview process, recruitment process, to explain the what's in it for you. But I must say that we've got a large advantage, John, and that's our scale. When you've got a scale of making, I think in the last 18 months, we made 60 or 70 internal promotion within the business. So it may just be someone moving to a mentor role or a mentor moving to an ops manager. So, it may not be a big move for them, but it's still a progression. I think you can have that career progression path. If you run a team, like, I don't know, any of our clients may have 5, 10, max 15 BDR SDRs in their team. Then having a career path for such a small group is much more difficult to manage. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because you can't invest the money to develop them. And then you've got this mutation of, I'm a great SDR. I want to become an AE now. Right. Because you are a great SDR doesn't mean that you will be a great AE. Okay. So then some of the things we do in that process is we actually want to show them what the life of an AE is. So we may not do a training, but we will do some, hey, this is what an AE actually do. And that little feel-good button when you are booking a meeting or someone is responding to an email, or you will get a bum on seat for an event, or you would close a small deal online. Well, instead of getting that gratification every day, it's going to take you maybe 6 months to get your dopamine button pushed. By the time you're done with procurement, by the time you'll feel nothing.
Right.
That's what happens when you close big deals. So we try to take them through and actually show them that the grass is not as green as they think it is. And it's almost like breaking the cliche. And that's what we do. But for me, really start from the recruitment process. You have to set rules in the recruitment process. You have to look at them in the eyes and say, look, if you come to me in 6 months for a promotion or a pay increase, you have to be bloody incredible. And you will know that. If you're not bloody incredible, the door is here. It's not for you. We're not,
I love that. Real quick, Eddie. I love, and I don't think enough people do what you talked about there, Ray, which is the micro promotions. If you can have SDR1, SDR2, SDR3, or whatever it might be, so that there is some progression. So it's not just SDR to AE. It's okay, for the first 6 months, you're going to be an SDR1, whatever that means. And then if you achieve these milestones, then you can become an SDR2. And maybe that is just giving you a little bit more autonomy to go further down the sales process with the qualification. And then SDR3 might be, further down, and then you get exposed to what it's like to be an AE, and you might get to sit on some demo calls or something. Those micro progressions I think are discounted too much in the grow at all costs mentality. because I literally this morning talked to a woman who they hired a whole bunch of SDRs at the same time. And when you hire a whole bunch of SDRs at the same time, they all move up at the same time, more or less. And there's not that many AE roles to so everybody's yelling at each other basically. When am I get promoted for 1 or 2 jobs when you have 15 of them that you hired? And so if you don't have that micro progression, you're going to lose a lot of people.
Yeah,
There's
we've got.
another.
Yeah, go on.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to chime in to say there's another reason why that's particularly important with younger audiences, younger SDRs, which is in the past, people used to look for stability in the job place. Hey, let me stay here for 10, 15 years. These days, people are looking for challenges. They're looking for ways to grow out of their
Yeah,
comfort zone, or so they say. But even if it's the same role, if you don't get new challenges, if you don't challenge millennials these days, they're going to grow stagnant. They're going to go to the competition. They're just going to go to the next opportunity. And they're always looking for those. So if you can provide those within your corporation, feel them, help them feel challenged and help them feel like they're progressing, you're going to have a loyal employee that's going to continue to grow with you and provide value.
yeah. It's so much nuggets that I want to pick from what you said, guys. Like, first of all, on what you say, John, we've got a matrix of competency or a competency framework, because you want to avoid the, hey, Bob got the promotion against me, and that's not fair. Why did he get the promotion? Is it because Pamela, who is the manager, prefer him? I saw them going for a drink the other day, or whatever, that sort of stuff. So now we've got like literally it's black and white. We've got 10 skills per jobs, and we have different level of SDR. So we start from rookie. A rookie can become a prodigy become a superstar become a legend. When you are a legend, you've got your picture on the Hall of Fame. You are invited to the President Club. You do all those sort of great things, etc., etc. When but when there is a promotion, it's very important to look at skills and competencies versus how they were performing in the previous job, okay, or in the previous role that they had. Now, on the other thing that you mentioned, Eddie, I think you should do both. The environment that we are trying to create, I think people still look after safety of the role, and you need to create a safe space. So the way I look at it is, how can I create an entrepreneurial culture, a culture of it's okay to mess up, a culture of it's okay to fail, but at the same time push people. So we really stretch people, we try to push people, but there is a massive safety net, and we always do post-mortem when we've got issues, and we have issues. Sometimes those issues cost us clients, but you create a relationship with the individual. And that's why I've got managers in my team that have been with me. Literally, I've got one that never had another job, and he's been with us for 9 years. He's going to celebrate his 10 years in July this year.
Nice.
The other few are like 8-7 years in the business. It's because we've got a relationship of growing together, failing together, learning together. Yeah. And I don't think there is a better way to create a tight bond. And it's a transparency. We are a big no bullshit company. So things need to be discussed when they need to be discussed. But sometimes people needs to be picked up as well when they are low. So it's the team can pick the individual, or the individual can pick the colleague next to him or her. It's about making sure that if someone is suffering, they don't suffer in silence.
Yeah, and just on that, I think that's the one thing I'm curious about as far as, how do you keep, because SDR role is a brutal role, right? It really is. It's very unforgiving. It's 99 no's to get one yes. So there are micro things that we need to celebrate, but failure is part of the game. And so, I always say, there's no such thing as failure if you learn from it. So what are some of the things from a motivational standpoint that you try to do to help prevent the inevitable downfalls and frustrations and multiple failures? Do you celebrate the failures? Do you highlight the learning lessons? Is it a daily thing? Is it a weekly thing? Talk to me a little bit about that, because I think that's one of the things that I see specifically in organizations is, how do you maintain this momentum or this positive energy so that you can do this? And I forgot to ask, are all your SDRs together? Are they like on site together working with each other, or are they all remote?
Now in the US, we've got probably around 70, 80 people in the office in Dallas. So that we kept that pretty much, in the office. In the UK and in the rest of the world, we've got pretty much people, scattered across, which is good because that gives us access to better talents, which is more
hard
difficult.
though, remote, right? It's hard to motivate remotely.
Yeah. You need to motivate remotely. So coming back to your initial question, I think it comes from the top, right? So myself in particular, I am very vocal about my failure.
Me too.
And I speak about them. We've got an all-hands every month where I would give my metrics, my targets, what I'm trying to do with the business, where we are going, very visible for the rest of the team. I'm giving them shit when they don't succeed. I want them to see when I'm not succeeding as well and what I'm doing, because that's only fair. So I think you've got to drink your own champagne, right? So you've got to give what you take, or you've got to take what you give, or you've got to do the same. So that's the first thing, because I think if you don't do that, the rest won't work, right? We already did on it. So I think that's a very important thing. So being very clear about the failure. The motivational thing, you've got, I guess it's almost like an account-based approach. It's a people-based approach. So we will do a one-to-many motivational speech. We will do a one-to-few, which would be a group speech. And we would be a one-to-one that will be a motivational speech. So maybe I can give you some examples. So
please.
Last all ends, we were coming out of a very shitty December because lots of people were told that they had to freeze their investment, etc., etc. We had a renewal rate that was probably 20% below what we would expect in normal time. So that was not good news for us. So we call an all-end and we say to people, look, you are safe. We are not going to sack anyone. Nobody will be made redundant. We've done exactly the same over the course of COVID. We've not made a single redundancy. Okay. So we said to them, look, we're going to do the same. No matter what we go through, if it means that we are making a loss as a business, if it means that it's costing us money, we will make sure that all the good people and the people that are work their ass off for us will still be on the boat when we're over the wave. Okay. But then I showed them a video about penguins. I found a video online about, penguin huddling together. Okay. And the concept of it is that if you're a penguin, you live in Antarctica, it's bloody cold outside. And if you're on your own, you die. You get all solid, you become an ice cube and you die. But what they do, the penguin, they actually huddle. So they all get together and they support each other. And they take turn. Because if you stay in the center of the huddle, you die. It's too hot for the penguin. So they overeat. So they need to take turn. And, one time you're going to get your tail cold and one time you're going to be in the warm of the middle. But I wanted to show them the video to say, look, we're going to get out of this if we work together, right? It's not about individual performance. And what I'm asking you guys to do is to help the person next to you do the job that you want to be promoted for. Go and help people. Don't see your colleagues suffer in silence. It's like if you see someone dying in the streets and you just walk by, checking your phone and just, what's that? You can't do that. You've got to go and help. Okay. So we spoke about that. And I think that created quite a bit of a wave because people still speak about penguin. And it's this penguin style. There is this hashtag going on. And that's kind of the group motivation. It's about finding a picture and it needs to be visual. Then you've got the one-to-few. And for the one-to-few, we had a team that was not really performing recently. And performer, he had some issues over Christmas, crashed his car first week of Jan. Actually, I think he was coming back from a New Year Eve party. Got some issues after that. A bit of a broken man. Got back to the office. Because he was the best performer, we put him on a bit of a tough campaign with a tough client. That didn't really work out. So we put him on a PIP, a performance improvement plan. And I arrive in Dallas and I meet with him and he's a shadow of the man he used to be the last time I was there. So I call him and I love the conversation because he was, when someone is not in denial about the issue and he's telling me about how shit he feels, how low he is, how depressed he is. And he's telling me, he said, look, I was the lowest probably in my life when you guys put me in a PIP. You basically, and I'm thinking in my head, shit, we beat the man down when he was on the floor. didn't
his bottom,
realize
yeah.
that. And what I told him, I said, look, I don't want you to worry about Operatix. Job is safe because I know what you've got. So you go and sort yourself out. You need the time you need to take. You take the time you need to take. You need to see the people you need to see. If you need to work 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 1 day a month, 2 days a month, we're going to keep on paying you for that. No problem. But you tell me what you need. We give you the space. You have the safety of the job. You have the safety of coming back and arm wide open when you come back. But you've got to go and sort yourself out because I know that when you do that, you're going to come back better than you left. He actually cried when I said that to him. It makes me feel very awkward. So I was like, well, maybe I need to leave the room. I didn't know if I was doing good or bad. And you know what? He's coming back to being the best performer 2 weeks later. He only needed the chat. He only needed that conversation. I think he only needed to have someone who trusted him and said, we know what you've got, because probably was not hearing that enough from a personal level. And I'm so glad, that's a big win. When you manage to help the individual to come back to where they were.
Huge.
Yeah.
What's his name again?
Sorry?
He doesn't want to name it. He didn't want to name
What's his name again? Can we shout him out?
His name is Bryce. And I think he'll be happy that I mentioned his name. And I'll make sure he's listening to this because I think it takes a big man to not be in denial. And it takes a big man to be honest about the situation. And he's no shy of being a big man.
Great job, Bryce. If you listen to this, man, keep it up.
Shout out, my man. Yeah, there's always some great success stories, people that make it all the way to the top in one shot, but the ones that have a bumpy road may fall down or stumble for a little while and then get back on their feet and continue to succeed. Those are definitely the coolest ones. I want to peel a couple things here for the audience. So you've been giving advice about onboarding and how a successful onboarding starts with an appropriate hiring. You've been sharing a lot of content around and advice around culture, how to keep a culture that motivates the talent, because there's definitely a lot of challenges, rejection and failure in this space, and how to take all of that negativity and turn it into positivity, right? Learning from the failures, how to motivate your team one-to-one, one-to-few, one-to-many sessions. But I want to ask you something, because everything around what you've been saying is providing that job security, which is very needed these days. But there comes a point where sometimes an SDR is not meeting quota. You mentioned a few of the, let's say, strategies or methodologies you have to try to get them back on their feet, change their mindset. But when do you decide that it's time to let go of someone, and how do you go through that process? Because I imagine a lot of people hearing this is like, great, I'm trying to motivate my team, but when do I know that enough is enough?
Yeah. So good question, and sometimes a tough one, Eddie, because you've got two things. You've got the hard number and then you've got the psychology. And we're not working with machine. Human beings, you can have someone who is really good this week and not so good next week. I also believe in the concept of putting an A player in a position where they become a D player or a C player or whatever. So I think there is a lot of things to look at. I mean, first and foremost, you need to see if it's someone who is showing the willingness to actually work for you and want to be here. Okay. So I guess that's what I would call do they have the attitude? Okay. Someone who's got the attitude, no problem. I think we can help them. Right. People who don't have the attitude, you've got to go. Right. You don't have the attitude, you're not showing, or people who are not accountable, they think that all their issues are coming from the fact that someone else is doing bad around them, or casting spell on them, or whatever, or the clients is doing bad, the technology is not good enough, this, that, and blah, blah, blah. It's the sort of thing that can be, for me, alerts and sign that you need to look at. Then if the person is good, you need to understand what's not working. And trust me, we get a lot of that. And I'm always asking clients, new clients that are coming in, and say, why do you think your internal team is not working? Or why do you think your previous supplier was not working? And not a lot of people actually can answer those questions, which is interesting. So what we do, we've actually looked at really breaking down the lead, what I would call the lead flow process. So if I take the example of setting up a meeting, booking a meeting, which is a relatively straightforward, usual task for a BDR SDR, we will look at the number of meaningful conversation. Okay, that's where we start, because that's a qualitative metrics. Remember, as I said, If they're not putting the calls, if they're not sending the emails, if they don't turn up in the office, for us, attitude is, if they don't have the attitude, they don't even bother looking at the rest. So you start that meaningful conversation. So how many activities is that person doing to have a meaningful conversation, right? And we've got ratio, and those ratios are different from one type of campaigns to another. So cybersecurity from big data will be different. But if your ratio is too low, then you need to look at the data. Do we have the right data? If the ratio is too low, you need to look at the time we are actually putting those calls. I think there was a book called Fanatical Prospecting, and we use the term of golden hours from that book.
Yep.
I don't remember the name of the author, which is terrible, but the book is called Fanatical Prospecting, and I would recommend it. Sorry?
Yeah. I think it's Jeb Blount, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he speak about golden hour, go and fish when the fish is out. So, you call people, I don't know how your agenda is organized, but for me, from 9 to 12, 30, 1, I'm in meetings. Then from 2 o'clock to 5, I'm in meetings. You want to catch me on the phone? I'm in meetings, I won't pick up. Call me after 6, you'll reach me. Call me before 8, you'll reach me. I may be at the gym, but I'm more likely to pick up. Okay? Yeah. So you've got to look at all those things. Are we putting the right level of activity to the right data when we can actually catch people? Then you have meaningful conversation turning into a meeting. Okay? Meaningful conversation turning into a meeting. If you don't have the right ratio, we should be around 20%. If you've got something relatively disruptive, you've got one of 3 issues. You don't contact the right company. You don't target the right persona. You don't say the right thing. Okay? In 80% of the case is the latest, because we would have worked on the data and the persona. So how do you get that sorted? Well, 10 years ago, you had to listen to calls. You had to plug in and listen to what the guys were saying. Now you can use Allego, Chorus, Gong. You've got conversational intelligence to listen to the call and see how we are pitching, what we are saying, are we selling the value, etc., etc. So I won't go through the whole process, but we go up to the point of the actual meeting taking place. Mm-hmm. And for each conversion, we know that there is one of 3, one of 4 issues that we can face. And then it's about looking at that and taking the magnifying glass, look at them, and then when we find something, we work on it. So that's really, really important. Now, the other thing to take into consideration is the market. Sometimes the market change. So you've got to also, there is those elements that are outside of your control. Okay? So we can only control what we've got in our control, and for the rest, we've got to remain stoic. But another book that actually my head of people gave to me, which is Leader It Last, has that concept about recruiting people that, and that's Simon Sinek, I believe, recruiting people like you would recruit kids, like it's your kids, basically. So it's your family. So basically, if I recruit you, Eddie, that means that no matter if you are good or bad, it's like if you are my son, I can't get rid of you. My responsibility is to make you good. And I love that concept, because I hate a manager who is sacking people right, left, and center, complaining about the people. You've got to tell them, hey, take a mirror, look at yourself, who recruited that guy, right? Yeah. If that guy is not good, it's your responsibility, not his. So
that's powerful. That's powerful, especially in a world where now, because of these financial changes and the pressure there is, etc., people are leaning towards be slow to hire, quick to fire, and a lot of leaders probably listening to these are maybe making the decision to fire a little bit too quick. You just gave great insights about not only you have a large number of SDRs, hundreds of them. Number one, hire correctly, spend the time picking the right people, but if you pick them, commit to them. Stick with them. If there's the willingness, there will always be a solution. If there's no willingness, then there's a completely different story. But it's not just that it cannot be done. There is a solution. Operatix is doing it today, and it's being successful. And that's a great message.
Yeah.
Let's just finish up with the one thing, Ray. I'm curious, with all the technology coming into this space, the chat GPTs and the tolerance for prospects of not of value, right? Of no value interactions. I mean, a lot of reps I see are being turned into robots, and they're getting replaced by robots, right? They're setting out these generic cadences. They're making generic calls. So, you have a great process to bring people through this and educate them, I think, the right way. But let's look ahead here at the very unknown of what's going to happen here in the next 2, 3, 5, 6, 12 months. What do you see the biggest challenge to the SDR position itself as we evolve with this technology?
Sure. Well, I think there is two motion. There is a motion of inbound and a motion of outbound. For the motion of inbound, this is probably where I would see automation taking a little bit more of a predominant position, and potentially AI, because you could speak to a chat and get the information you need relatively quickly. That's probably true for the lower level sell. Would you spend over 50K annual recurring revenue just speaking to a robot? I don't think I would, but my kids may. So we've got to be careful about that. I think from the outbound perspective, you can use AI, you can use machine learning to help you to automate some of it. But I don't know, maybe call me old school, but I think there is an art in selling. And I think the techniques, I'm listening to all those things. I'm sometimes I've got people sending me, that guy on LinkedIn said this or that, or we should use that technique of, do you have 27 seconds, 3 years ago, or things like that. It always make me smile because, at the end of the day, I don't think things have changed since I started. I put my first call in 2006 myself. So, I was not working in the 90s or in the 80s, but, in the 2000, I guess. So pretty much 17, 18 years ago. 19 years ago, actually, a long time. And I don't think it's changed. I think you need to listen. You need to be prepared. You need to research your prospect, because that's how you show respect. That's how you show them that, you deserve 30 seconds of their time or 1 minute of their time, by telling them why them and having a compelling reason for them. And I think the most powerful tool of selling is actually saying nothing. I do believe that silence is so powerful. Because it's so quiet, and if you are comfortable with it, that's how you get people to speak. And for me, selling particularly, maybe not so much for the BDR, SDR, but as you are going through the discovery phase, you want to open this wide open question, ask more, and stop. So asking great question and not speaking too much, I think, is important. And I don't know if tools can really help you to do that. Maybe they will in the future, but I think right now they are really good way to accelerate things. I'm a little bit concerned with ChatGPT in the sense that, is it really genuine? I'm gonna give you an example. So one of my colleagues, I definitely won't say who on that one, told me he went to ChatGPT to write his wife Valentine's card. Okay.
Oh no.
And I'm thinking, we're having a few beers. We are in Dallas. So, now we're starting to narrow down. So he's in the US. And we're having a few beers. And I'm like, you are a genius. This is great. Why have I not thought about it? I always struggle to write cards and everything. This is so good. And I'm thinking about it. I said, whoa, wait a minute. Imagine she loved it so much that she actually take a picture of it and put it through her Instagram story. And she's got some of her other girlfriends saying, well, are you... Johnny wrote exactly the same one. And I think that's the problem with it. I've tried, and I think the system is smart enough to generate different responses. But I think at some point, and I was told that there is tools that are actually telling you that a piece of content, if it was generated by an AI or human, and I think that's how people will get caught. Because quite frankly, I like you, John. I like what you are doing. I think you do a lot for the industry. But if you are to prospect me with a piece that is not coming from you, I would feel so annoyed. I'll be like, that's, you just created that with an AI. And I would feel a little bit disrespected. If I know that you've done it yourself, even better, you write it on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Then it's a real effort, and I would be pleased and honored. But yeah, so I think it's good, but I think we've got to be careful about being genuine. And that would be my concern with it. I think it's a great tool. I think it's a great tool to give you ID. It's a great tool to check what's available out there. But like any great tool, it's to be used with care.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think there's a lot out there right now and a lot of noise around it too. What I tell the teams is you can't ignore it because it's here, whether you like it or not. But don't get consumed by it. Don't ask it to do your job for you. Learn how to leverage it, right? Kind of like my concept of the sales rep of the future is Iron Man or Iron Woman, right? So Iron Man, you got Tony Stark, the human, right? And he's great, but if he didn't have the suit, all these aliens would kill him. So he creates the suit, but the suit doesn't work without Jarvis. Right. So if you think of the human plus the technology like a CRM or a sales engagement tool, and then the AI to power that and let the technology do most of the heavy lifting, but then right before it goes to, that email goes out or that call gets made, you have to humanize it. Because until computers buy from computers, like once computers buy from computers, we're in trouble. But
we do.
But until that happens, there's still that human element that has to be in play here. And I think that's the part that we can really leverage as we move forward here. So
I'm going to completely steal that from you, John. The Iron Man stuff. That's going to become my new analogy. I'm going to use it tonight, see how it lands.
Perfect.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, Eddie, do you want to bring us home here?
Well, team, thank you so much for the awesome insights. There's definitely a lot of possibilities and reassurance for leaders, sales leaders listening to you. Hey, you can have large teams. You can make them profitable. You can make them efficient. You can make them part of your team, your family members, right? In essence, or a highly productive team, right? Some people just don't want to get too comfy, getting too close or over friendly. But the important thing is making your teams productive. There's always a solution, or as long as there's a will. Ray, thank you so much for those insights. John, it's always a pleasure to have you on board.
Absolutely. And Ray, just to wrap things up real quick, where can people find out more information about Operatix?
Yeah, so website, Operatix. I didn't think too much about it when we come up with the name, but sometimes it's important to spell it. And Aurélien Mottier, AURELIEN MOTTIER. I mean, probably the one and only. I didn't check if there is some other. It's quite a specific name. Available on LinkedIn. If you reach out to anyone in my team, they will be more than happy to help. So yeah, please reach out if you want to carry on the chat or anything you want to discuss. And we do love to give a little bit back to the community. So even if we love to speak to people who may not have. You don't need to have a purchase order to speak to us, basically. I guess that's my point.
There you go. Love it. Awesome, Arlene. Well, thank you again so much for coming on board. I really appreciate it. And hopefully the audience got as much value out of this as we did here. So appreciate the time, my friend.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Eddie.